These people existed. That's how the popular cowboy western Netflix movie, The Harder They Fall, begins. While the storyline of that movie was fiction, all the characters in it were real people. The point the producers of that movie were trying to make was that while cowboys have played a popular role in American society for the past century, what's often left out or not portrayed is the fact that many of the real cowboys in the old American West were people of African descent. Cowboy culture has its root in the Texas territory. In the 1500s, Spanish conquistadors brought horses to the territory and began the practice of cattle ranching, where huge herds of cattle would be guided around large swaths of land to feed on the grass. In the first half of the 1800s, white slave owners settled the Texas territory and began using their slaves to operate their large cattle herds. During the Civil War, a majority of white landowning men in Texas left to fight in the war, and their slaves were left behind to take care of the cattle herds. Because of this, once slavery was abolished, black men in Texas possessed the necessary skills needed to take care of the huge herds of cattle that needed to be guided north to the railroads, where they would be shipped off to the rest of the country. It is estimated that during the heyday of these cattle drives that at least 1 in 4 of all cowhands were black. But this is a low estimate because many white landowners would hide the true number of black cowhands that they had working in order as to not pay as much taxes. It's also during this time that the word cowboy became popular. Most white men that drove cattle were called cowhands, but the white owners would refer to their black workers derogatorily as cowboys. During this time period in the late 1800s, there were many black men that earned great reputations as excellent cowhands working the trails of the old American West. One of the most famous black cowboys was a man named Nat Love. Nat Love was born into slavery in Tennessee, and after the Civil War as a teenager, he moved out west and began his career working as a cowboy, where he earned a reputation as one of the best marksmen and cattle ropers of his time. He won so many shooting contests that people began to call him Deadwood Dick after a popular cowboy comic character of the time. Another famous black cowboy was a man named Bill Pickett. Pickett became famous for a technique he invented to wrestle a running cow to the ground. This technique became known as bulldogging and can be seen in modern-day rodeos to this day. Another famous black cowboy was a man named Bass Reeves, who was the first black deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi. He was personally responsible for capturing over 3,000 wanted criminals in the territories of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. It wasn't just black men that were known for their skills in corralling cattle and training horses. Johanna July was a woman from the Black Seminole tribe in Oklahoma that became known for her skills in breaking wild horses and training them to be rideable. To break a wild horse, she would lead the horse into the middle of a creek and force it to swim in the water. Then once the horse was completely tired out, she would jump on its back and then ride the horse out of the water, forcing it to have someone on its back and thus be able to be trained. Even though most of American pop culture and movies have not portrayed black Americans as being part of the old American West experience, the truth is that we owe much of the cowboy culture to the black Americans that lived during the height of the American westward expansion.